You know, it's always nice having someone on that you can introduce as an impresario, but I've never had anyone on the show that I could introduce as a third-generation Concordian. Welcome, Joe Landini.
Oh my goodness.
3 generations of Landinis in the East Bay.
Yeah, 3 generations. I
And
still live there.
Yeah, and there's even a street named after your family.
Yeah, my grandfather had a business and the city made him name it. So he named it after himself.
So, Goldie Award, founder of The Garage. Probably there's very few people that know more about the dance and performance community in the Bay Area than you.
Yeah, we're the pretty small pool of us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would say so.
So what made you crazy enough to open up this kind of 24/7 arts safe space? I mean, it wasn't because you wanted to make a lot of money.
No. You know, I was a waiter for 25 years, and I knew that I didn't want to be a waiter for another 25 years. So I had a pretty limited skill set. So I thought, okay, well, you need a job, so I guess you should just open a theater, because I had worked in theaters.
Yeah, well, and also seriously, all kidding aside, a lot of people have known your byline. You wrote about dance from a very educated point of view for a long time.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem surprising when you opened The Garage.
Right, and I ended up on the other side of the fence.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about what is The Garage and, you know, how does it work?
You know, we found a storefront, and I knew all my friends needed space to make dances. I worked with a lot of choreographers. I'm a choreographer, and I knew that making dances was really expensive, and so I had this idea that there must be some way for choreographers to make dance and not pay to make dances. And so we created this almost like a timeshare model where there's about 120 groups share the space each year.
120?
120, yeah. And each group gets access to the theater for 12 weeks as part of our residency program. And at the end of the 12 weeks, they don't have to put a dime down, but they do have to produce 2 nights. And then we keep the box office and we use that to pay the rent.
So it's like a rotating artist in residency program.
Yeah, exactly.
And how's it been going for 6 years?
You know, it's been amazing. You know, we branched out from dance. We do new performance, we do plays, solo performance. And so what's been really cool about it is we have a model where we take everybody. So no matter who ends up on my doorstep, we find room for them.
You're like the Jane Eyre of performance companies.
We are, yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And, you know, at the beginning of the 12 weeks, I hand out a key, and I hope for the best.
It sounds like a reality show.
I know, someone should hide cameras.
Well, I mean, have you thought about that? I mean, just seriously, San Francisco is probably the most vital dance community outside of New York.
Yeah, exactly.
And some would even say, because it's smaller and there's more, you know, collaboration going on, that it may even be more vital than New York.
Yeah.
The sort of artistic expression that goes on would be an incredible film or TV show.
Yeah, that would be. Do you know someone? I mean,
We could talk.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So it's all free. How do you fund this?
The city has been very generous.
So grants for the arts?
Grants for the arts, San Francisco Arts Commission, a couple of private foundations, and box office receipts. We do 230 shows a year. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And what's the capacity for the theater?
Just 49 seats, that's it.
So have you thought about taking The Garage on the road? I mean, clearly it's a concept that works.
Right.
But, I mean, if you're filling a theater, no matter what the size is, and you have people who've come to that area of town, which is not the easiest to park or get around with.
It's true.
For the last 6 years, maybe it's an idea that needs expansion.
Maybe, yeah. If I could find a business plan that would work. I mean, that's always the secret, isn't it? Like, to find a business plan that will work. So, if anyone has any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. What is it about San Francisco that breeds this sort of performance? That you can fill 200 nights with new, interesting performance?
Well, you know, it's pretty amazing. You figure at this point they're estimating that there's going to be around 7,000 new people in the city per year until 2045. So it's an interesting question. It's a good question. I mean, we're definitely, you know, the end of the road before you hit the Pacific Ocean. And, you know, San Francisco has a really long history of gypsies and vagabonds and people who want to reinvent themselves. And so I think we live with that history. I think that people come to San Francisco to be creative and to be bohemian, to be independent, you know, all those things that you can't really do in New York. So I think that's what it is.
Now, how is it being an East Bay person, you
Yeah.
have these deep family roots, you live there,
Right.
and coming to San Francisco. What's the culture shock once you come? I don't know if you drive over the Bay Bridge or do BART.
BART, yeah. It's night and day. It's night and day. I live on a very quiet street. I would say maybe 6 or 7 cars go down my street per day. And then I get on BART, and then I step off of BART, and I'm in the middle of, this huge cosmopolitan, cultural, place. It's night and day. It's shocking. But I love living in what it is basically for me a small town.
Yeah. How does that inform your artistic vision? I mean, small town boy,
right,
and then big city.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little right brain, a little left brain. And like most of life, you have to sort of figure out a way to integrate those things. Try and embrace all the gray areas. Try not to be too black and white.
Right. An earlier guest last week was talking about a film that has been made about San Francisco during the age years called Test, and specifically how it impacted the dance community. During your time here in the Bay Area, how have you seen the dance community impacted by not only things like AIDS, but the political changes, the economic changes? I mean, you look out on Market Street now, and I think there's 9 construction cranes up.
Right.
It's like, financial crisis, when?
Right. Yeah, I think the most interesting time to live during that period was during the dot-com boom, which you were here for that, and that was crazy. We started losing dance spaces left and right. Brady Street closed, Dancers Group closed, and that was a really frustrating period. But I think having come out of that, I think that you take everything with a grain of salt. It's all cyclical,
Yeah, because right now the cycle seems to be coming. I mean, the Garage is thriving.
Right.
I'm hearing about new performance groups. I'm hearing about a new generation of artists.
Yeah, well, all these people want content. They want to come to the city, and granted, the great restaurants and the clubs are great, but they want open space. They want cultural programming. They want all these things, and luckily, San Francisco still understands the importance of those things. So I think that's the reason you're seeing that, because you can only do so much with a laptop. Ultimately, or an app. Ultimately, you want to go out into the real world, and you want to interact with people on Valencia Street and North Beach and places like that. Yeah,
I mean, the whole movement towards the parklets and things in San Francisco, to me, are ultimately encouraging, because, sometimes whether I'm on my bike or in my car, it seems like every day I almost hit somebody who's plugged into something that isn't looking where they're going. I'm do people still interact with people?
Well, there's a starvation for it. I know that in our space, we only seat 49 people. And if I have a group of artists, the bulk of our audience are roommates, coworkers, family. And they really don't have that many opportunities to interact. And so our theater ends up becoming like this little mini community hub. And it's pretty amazing, because all these people are starving to interact with each other. They interact through Facebook and through texting, but there's something very special about watching a live performance as a group and being able to have a conversation about that live performance after having seen it that you don't get with Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, social media has had such an impact, I think, psychologically on all of us. How do you get someone who spends most of their day with their eyeballs glued to a monitor to understand the importance of live interactive performance?
That's a good question. I haven't solved that one yet.
But you're working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I think that they want to be stimulated. And so I think that's the key, is to figure out, once you get them into the building, of course, getting them into the building is a huge challenge. But once you get them into the building, is stimulating them. And luckily, live art is incredibly stimulating. So I think half the battle is getting them in. Once they're in, they usually have a pretty good time, because we have a chance to sort of show them things that they don't get a chance to experience anywhere else in the city.
Now, you started in the dance world, but now the Garage has expanded to performance art, and I think even spoken word. I mean, what is your mission? What won't we see at the Garage? Because it sounds like that would be a shorter list than what we will see.
Live sex.
We won't do that.
I won't do that.
Has anyone tried?
Oh, yeah.
No, really. Because, I mean, I know you've got this kind of, it seems to me, from what I read and understand, that the Garage has a very kind of open sort of platform. That if you say, I have an idea, I want to do it.
I would say that's where we've cut it off at.
Well, so, barring live sex,
Right. Okay,
there's a lot that goes on at the garage.
Yeah, that seemed like a good place to cut it off at.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, you do have something else coming up, not in the garage, but actually at ODC. Tell me about this festival.
yeah, we've had this amazing partnership with ODC. A couple of years ago, we approached them. We were growing really quickly, and we had artists that we knew would benefit from being at a larger theater with more resources. So we approached them about bringing some of our artists over during the summer, and they were really open to doing that. So this year will be our second year of doing SPF, which stands for Summer Performance Festival. It's actually our sixth one, so we're calling it SPF 6, but our second one at ODC. And what we did was we selected 6 choreographers that we felt had a lot of promise, and we encouraged them to make 40-minute pieces at the garage over a 1-year period. And then at the end of the year, we send them over to ODC.
Yeah.
And then ODC hosts us.
In our last few minutes, I want to ask you about something. I know that you've written, you've choreographed, you've become an arts impresario. I didn't know you were a tap dancer at one point.
Tap is my life. Tap is my life.
So who's your favorite tap dancer?
Oh, Sammy Davis Jr.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And why?
he understood performance in a way that I think a lot of them missed it. I just feel like he was so showbiz. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, which, one of its famous native sons is Bill Bojangles Robinson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, this,
Yeah.
what is the connection between someone like, Bill Bojangles Robinson and a Sammy Davis and you?
I love the cheesiness of Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, he had the whole Vegas thing going on. Bojangles was a vaudevillian.
Yeah.
And which was different. And I just love I loved that Sammy Davis Jr. embraced popular culture. Being part of the Rat Pack and all of that, and he was on the vanguard. I mean, for an African American man to accomplish what he accomplished during that
And
period,
with a bunch of white guys.
with a bunch of white guys,
On equal footing.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Now, but we haven't seen you tap at the garage.
not yet.
So, come on.
No.
Have you hung up the tap shoes?
I have. I'm out of shape. You got to keep your rhythms pretty tight if you're going to be.
I'm going to throw it down here. I want to see Joe Landini on stage at the garage just for a fundraiser.
Oh, for a fundraiser.
I'll pay to see you tap. You do me a Sammy Davis and Bill Bojangles routine, and we'll.
Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. I'll give that some thought.
All right, you give it some thought.
Okay, excellent.
We've been speaking to Joe Landini about the garage and his great life and art. Next up, we're going to meet the creator of Bold Italic. A conversation with Jennifer Merritt's coming up. Thanks.